TipTut.
Hello everybody and welcome back to TipTut and welcome back to Intro to Animate CC or Adobe Animate. You can call it whatever you like. Basically in the first episode we ran through the interface of the system and the different types of ways that you can draw onto the stage. And today we're actually going to get to the fun bit. We're really going to start animating. Now, before I get started, I just want to say two things. Number one, just because we're animating a stickman jumping about and having a fight, that doesn't mean that these principles don't apply to anything else. It's just I had a bit of a hankering for it. So that's what I'm going to draw. I haven't drawn a stickman fight since I was a kid, so I'm going to do it again. But the same principles apply to any type of animation, whether that's a character face animation, whether that's a web banner, really anything. All these principles can be applied anywhere, because that's what I'm trying to teach you here. It's not meant to be a copy and paste job. So if you don't want to do a stickman, if you just want to watch along and animate something else down the line, that's totally fine as well. Secondly, these videos may or may not, from this point on, have solid start and ends like the rest of my tutorials do. Even when I split them up in a series, they usually, you learn X, Y, and Z in this tutorial. This may be a bit more freeform, purely because animation takes a long time. Things may pop into my head as I'm going. So settle in, essentially, is what I'm getting into here. So let's just dive right in then. Hopefully you've watched part one. If you haven't, go away and watch it, because most of this won't make any sense. If you have, great, ready to go. So I'm just going to dump everything in a new scene then. First of all, we'll just watch this again. Guy jumps in the air, he lands, and he blasts off screen in a ball of fire. Wicked. Now this combines frame by frame, motion tweening, symbols, and paint. So what we're going to do is just insert a new scene, which gives us scene 4. Now you can tab between your scenes using this clapperboard here. So I've got scene 5 because I've already made scene 4, then deleted it. Doesn't matter. And we're going to just jump up into our layer palette. Going to create a bunch of layers. First of all, we're going to have the floor. Then we're going to have the guides. Then we're going to have the body. Then we're going to have a head. And then we're going to have effects 1 and effects 2. Okay, now we can add more of these later on, that doesn't matter. I'm going to give myself a bunch of frames with F5, that's the shortcut, just so that I've got a little bit to work with. Okay, so let's start off then by drawing our floor, determining where the floor of our scene is so that our character has something to stand on. I'm going to grab the line tool to do this, and I'm just going to shift click roughly a third up from the bottom, and that gives us a nice gentle, easy floor to look at. It's not overwhelming, it doesn't get in the way. Now with the guides layer, I'm going to try and determine the height of my character. For example, if I want my stickman to ultimately be about yay tall from the floor, that's totally fine. And I'll split that in half again, roughly for his waistline. And what this means is when I have him jump up in the air later, if I have him land and be roughly the same height, it's going to look a lot better than if he's squishing or stretching. And when he lands, he's suddenly half the height that he was when I started. Because we're going to animate straight ahead. So there's two techniques. There's key posing and straight ahead. Key posing means that I'd animate the character, for example, if I just lock and guide that layer so you don't draw on it. If I, for example, to animate him in his starting pose and then draw another keyframe with him in his next extreme, which is the point where he stops moving in any certain direction. So for example, at the top of his jump, and then I was animate him at the bottom of his jump landing, like so. And then again, when he stood up, then I'd go through, give myself a bit of breathing room, and draw the frames in between these. Say for example, between there and there would then obviously be like this. That's called key to key or key pose animation. And what it basically means is you determine all of your keyframes that you need, or your sort of extreme points, and then you go in between those extreme points and you animate the in-between frames. Now we're not going to be doing that today, we're going to be animating straight ahead, which means from point 1, you just animate the next frame, the next frame, the next frame, the next frame. And the reason I'm doing that is because I don't really have a plan. I'm not sure what my character's going to do in this circumstance. So why bog myself down? I'm just going to go for it, I think. Okay, so let's zoom in a little bit then. And let's start, say, here. Now, I know that my character is going to have a head, so I might as well draw that first on the head layer, because that does determine the size of the rest of the character. And what I'll also do, so we can get into symbols a little bit as well, is I'll right-click on this and convert it to a symbol and call it head. I think I'll call it head 2 because I've already got a head in my library. And then I'm going to drop inside this head layer, okay? And now I'm working on just the head's timeline. Okay, so if I drop back into scene 5, you can see that this is the timeline for the entire scene, and this is the timeline just for the head, which only has one keyframe, because at the moment we haven't made any changes. We did speak about this in last episode, so if you don't understand, go back and watch that bit again. So what I'm actually going to do is show you how internal timelines work with inside a symbol, and I'm going to do that with some eyes. So for example here now, with inside of my head, I now have a base layer, and on top of that, I have an eyes layer, okay? Now I'm just gonna draw some big goofy eyes. It looks a bit crap. Yeah, that looks okay. And then on top of that, I'm gonna have a pupils layer. Okay, now I'm going a bit quickly here because I'm not putting as much effort in as I usually would, purely because I'm illustrating a point. You can obviously take as much time as you want, and I highly recommend you do take as much time as you want getting your characters looking the way you want. And all I'm going to do, I could go through and animate these eyes really well, but what I'm going to do, because they're very small on the screen, is I'm just going to animate a little blink cycle, okay? So on the eyes and the pupils, then, for example, I'm going to take both of these, grab our free transform tool, which is Q, and I'm just going to shorten them a little bit. Okay, I'm going to move on 2 more frames. I'm going to shorten them quite a lot. But what I'm actually going to do, the reason I separated them out, is I'm going to shorten these, but I'm just going to have the pupils obviously remain the same size. Okay, then I'll add in 2 more keyframes, which is a shortcut F6, and in between them I'll delete everything on the frame, which looks like his eyes are completely closed. In fact, if I wanted to, I could actually probably just go in here, grab a slightly darker green, and on a very small brush, just give him some eyelids, okay? Now, his eyes are back open again. I'll just grab these 2 frames that we've done before, and I'll hold Alt and drag them around, and that just duplicates them, okay? So now I've done a very quick blink. Okay, and then if I turn the loop on, that will loop indefinitely, and we can preview it looping. Okay, not brilliant, but I'm not super focusing on the animation. I'm focused on how to get these points across. So now, for example, if I drop out into this main scene, and I make sure that my head is a graphic. So if you go up to properties panel, there's 3 types of symbol, technically. There is a graphic, a movie clip, and a button. The only difference you need to worry about now is you can ignore button. Graphic and movie clip, just think a graphic will play its inside of loop when you're testing, but a movie clip will only play its inside loop when you export. So for example, if I choose movie clip now and press play on our main timeline, you can see that the animation doesn't play, okay? But if I turn this instead to a graphic, you can see that it does play when you're testing. Now the movie clip will play when you actually export the movie, but it just doesn't play when you're testing it. It's just one of those things, okay? Right, so we've got the head of our character. I'm just gonna put that in position now, probably over here. And it's time to animate the body. So we've already done a bit of frame by frame, but you can tell we're combining frame by frame animation with tweening I'm probably going to frame by frame the head and body, but tween the shadow and probably some of the effects as well and things like that. So let's dive right in. I'm just going to lock that head for now because I don't want to be accidentally drawing on it. And I'm going to go down to my body layer and I'm going to draw our first body. In fact, that head looks a little bit high. I'm just going to put his eye line on there. That makes more sense. Now I'm using a graphics tablet, which is a pen on a sort of tablet kind of device that I draw with. If you're using a mouse, I highly recommend you get a graphics tablet. You can pick a cheap one up for about 30 quid, especially if you think you're going to be doing a lot of this kind of animation. Okay, so I'm going to give him a nice thick body and I'm just going to go for it. So his starting position, I kind of want him to be in like a ready-ish pose. Okay, like this. And maybe his arms are sort of bunched up a little bit like he's ready to run. Okay, good. Now, this pose, if I play straight ahead, because I haven't drawn any other flames, all he's going to do is just blink at the moment. So maybe I'll leave him having their blink for a second or so, and then I'm just going to drop in with F6 a whole load of new keyframes because I know now this is where I want to start my animation. Okay, so really easy. Grab your body layer, delete it. You move 2 frames on, which you can do with the comma and full stop or left triangle bracket, right triangle bracket buttons. That'll push you around in your timeline. And if you just keep the other finger on F6 or F7 rather for a blank keyframe, what you'll do then is you'll be able to drop in new keyframes as you draw. Okay, so let's just dive right in. One thing you need to make sure you have selected is your onion skin tool, and that allows you to see the frames before and after your drawing. Okay, so let's just hide the head because it's going to distract us. Okay, so he's just started moving at this point, so we probably want him to be his movement quite close together. Okay, but if you just think about how he is going to be moving, he's going to be moving his body forward and down as he prepares to jump in the air, because that's what I've decided I'm going to do. Okay, which means his weight's going to be moving forward onto his front leg, but obviously his front foot's not going to move. His back leg will probably come up a bit, so we'll just do that. And his arms will probably come up in preparation to jump. Okay, so all we need to do then is move 2 frames ahead and hit F7. That gives us a new blank keyframe, and we'll go in again. Okay. Now what looks wrong there is his body is actually moving down, but I didn't move his waist with it. Okay, like so. So that looks a bit better. He's going to bring his leg up like this. His arms, I would feel, would at this point be coming a lot further up. And then we'll do the same again, move along. Excuse me, I'm just getting an email there. Move along, F7 for a new keyframe. And then I'm going to have him really low down this time. He's going to powerhouse into this jump that he's preparing for. Okay. Now, I just want to add another couple of easing frames here. So rather than redraw it, all I'm going to do is instead of hitting F7, sorry, I'm going to hit F6, which just repeats the keyframe, okay? Then if I hit Q or click my free transform tool, I can move my point of origin down to his feet, and then I can just gently manipulate this drawing to give him a really nice gentle ease into his position as he gets ready to force himself upwards. Okay, so really quite gently into there, like so. So let's take a look at that back. Okay, there you go. Look, you can see he sort of rests into that position. There's actually a little bit of backlash as well, which is good because that's him settling in. Now, let's just do this head as well. Actually, no, let's leave the head for a while. Let's give us a load more frames to work with F5. Let's just keep working on the body. So I feel like this needs one more resting frame, just a tiny, tiny bit left and a tiny, tiny bit shorter, just so he settles in. And then the next one, we're gonna have him blasting off completely into the air, okay? Bam, like so. His body's gonna stretch out. His front leg's gonna be up in the air. His back leg is going to be leaving. Now here, he's much taller than he was, but that's okay because this is a technique called stretch. This means that if you stretch out your drawing at this point physically, where it's moving so fast, it'll look like he's moving a lot faster than he actually is. So you can get away with drawing less frames, but the illusion of movement is actually really powerful. So not only do you have to do slightly less work, you also get a really powerful animation, which is great on 2 fronts. So let's have him sort of start to come out of his arc. He's going to have his front leg up a bit more, but he's going to start to bring his back leg in. I'm going to have him do like a big powerhouse kick, and I'm going to have him kick away, maybe like a ball or something. Okay, like so. And then we want, bam, starting to curve around. Back leg is smearing there because that doesn't look right, but in the actual animation it'll start to smear, which basically means that if you draw sort of a thicker leg than you would usually have, or a position that you wouldn't be able to usually achieve according to physics, it gives you that sense of power as it moves into the other extreme pose, which is going to be this. Bam, he's kicking out. Okay, now I think I've grown him slightly, or am I all right? I think I might be all right. Okay, so let's have him ease into this position then as he starts to make contact with whatever it is that he's going to be kicking. So again, I feel like once you've made that kick, your body might arc back slightly. That doesn't look right. He's moving way too fast. So he probably should be more like that, and then he can start to tilt his body back. So if you're having trouble drawing it, there's no reason why you can't trace roughly this one drawing. Maybe make a slight change and then move it into position. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a totally legit technique. Okay. Again, another F7, and I'm going to have him start to maybe do a backflip as he gets into the ground. So maybe his leg starts to bend a bit. This one remains where it is, but his arms start to swing in. And then he starts to drop, okay? So he starts to drop like this. His back leg comes out. His arms are coming up to balance himself. Oops, sort of recovery there. And then he starts to drop in. Now, because this isn't traditional animation, because this is digital, I can kind of work half go ahead or straight ahead and half key plays. For example, I think there I probably will need another frame in between those two. What I can do is watch it back and decide that for myself. Bam. Okay. So now that doesn't look super great because the momentum's all gone. So he kicks, but his body would still keep moving because of all that force, yeah? So there's the point of impact. Maybe he'd keep falling. And maybe he should be going somewhere like that. Bam. There you go. Bam. So what he needs, I think, is another frame in here between those two. So this is that combination of straight ahead and pose to pose animation. I can just sort of draw those two frames that are in between it and see if that gives us, yeah. I think he should stop. Bam. Stop there because he's made an impact. And then he should spin around more. And if this doesn't work, I'll just delete it and start again. You know, animation is a slow progress. And if you're worried about spending time doing it, then it's probably not the best profession for you, if that makes sense. Like, I understand that you don't want to waste time, but figuring something out to get it to look right isn't a waste of time. Bam. Okay, I think the problem there is that I've got too many frames. Bam. Okay, he's made that kick. Bam. So what looks wrong there? So he comes up, he makes that kick. Maybe he just needs to keep going a long way. And this is the thing, I'm not a professional animator, so I do come across these problems. But the only way to fix them is to try and see what looks good. And if it doesn't look good, then don't worry too much, essentially. So let's try something like that. Bam. That looks okay. Cool, let's keep going then. That looks good enough for now. And maybe his body whips around like this. So he's full spin mode right now. Like that. And then he keeps dropping. But by this point, he's kind of straightening out a bit. So his legs pops like this. And then we have a nice big stretch frame as he gets back into his drop. Give ourselves a bit of breathing room, see where we are. And we want a nice big bam, leg up, dropping into your, I'll rush that, dropping into your landing pose. Okay. Bam, kick, and then into your landing pose. And then I think here we need just a huge jump in time to him on the floor. Completely stretched out, complete overkill with the stretch. And then the next exact frame is bam, he's face planted on the floor. His arms are up. His body is kind of knackered a bit. And then maybe his arms want to be a touch off the floor. And then you want a nice resting pose that you can ease. Okay, like so. Like so. Let's see how that looks. Jump, kick, land. Jump, kick, land. That looks okay, but he kind of smushes forward way too far. Again, I'm not focusing too much on animation quality here. I'm just trying to get the points across. Okay, so let's have him, oops, daisy, into his resting pose a bit. Let's have him slide a touch because he did have a lot of power. And land. Okay, he's landed. He's going to keep sliding. So let's have him slide loads and then peter out into nothing. Okay. Bam. So there's one frame there that doesn't look quite right, and that is that one. Because you can see he lands, he's got a weird hump in his back, and then that hump just disappears immediately. So let's delete that frame and find a better in between. Perhaps something like that. Up, bam. Yeah, that looks better. Okay. So there I'd probably say I wouldn't actually be happy with that in the final thing. It's not quite as snappy, but for the sake of illustrations, that works totally fine. Okay, I think it's that spin. There's something wrong with that spin. I think he hangs there for too long. I think he does actually. Bam. Okay, so those 3 frames, let's get rid of those. Let's see what that looks like. Bam. Oh, nearly. Maybe just those 2. Bam. Nah, that looks worse. Maybe I'll figure out what looks wrong with that in between episodes. But I think that'll do for now. It's quite a long episode. And next time we'll get into animating the head and also do a bit of motion tweening on the shadow beneath him as well. So today we've gone through creating a symbol, a timeline within that symbol, and a whole bunch of frame by frame animation. And I think the one thing to take away from this, it's especially apparent, is it's okay to delete things and go back and do them again. That's totally fine, especially when you're starting out, and especially if you haven't animated in a long while like me. So thanks for joining me, everybody. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time for some motion tweening. See you then.
Remember to subscribe for more tips, tricks, and tutorials. Thanks for watching.